Hey y'all, Gina Brown here, one of GCISD's digital learning coaches. Thank you so much for joining me today at the TCEA conference and coming to my on-demand session, SEL and Restorative Circles. I know you have a lot of choice in regards to which sessions you want to spend your time with, so I really feel honored to spend the next hour or so with you. Stay tuned as I share my screen and start my presentation. Hey y'all, Gina Brown back again with my slideshow presentation. So once again, we are at TCEA's Convention and Exposition for the year of 2022 here in Dallas, Texas. So my session today is going to be SEL with restorative circles. I put restorative in parentheses because I'm not just going to be talking about restorative circles. I'm going to be talking about dialogue circles, classroom circles, opening circles, closing circles. So if restorative practices or restorative circles kind of intimidate you a little bit, or you don't feel like you're ready to jump in, no worries. Don't go anywhere. Stay, because I promise you're going to leave with little tidbits that you hopefully you can use in class next week. So I also have some poll questions at the end of this conference. So make sure you stick around and answer the 3 poll questions so I can get a little feedback about how you're going to use SEL in your class moving forward. So I would say if you were going to save one resource from my presentation today, this slideshow is it. I have everything hyperlinked into it, and if I don't as of yet, I will by the time you see it. For instance, what I have here is a Jamboard that we're going to use for one of our activities. I also have a Padlet we're going to use for another activity. I've got this awesome, not going to show it yet, virtual circle to use when you circle up and you have some kids at home. I have this Google Doc that has my agenda and all of the resources that I'm going to be using. So if you need to reference them or double check, everything should be right here for you. And then I even have an infographic that I'm going to share at the end that you can take and share with anybody at your school. Feel free. You have my permission. Okay, y'all, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to share my screen and I'm going to go through my presentation. So you are on demand. So please feel free to pause if you got to get up, stretch your legs. If you want to take a couple minutes to do the activity later on, feel free to fast forward the 5-minute timer. I want this to be a session that you get the most out of. So that's one of the benefits of being on demand is you can cater it to exactly what you need. So I'm going to share my presentation with you and I'll be right back. If you are doing any social media today, if you are on Twitter, please make sure you tag us at TCEA and hashtag TCEA. Not only that, if you are talking about my session, SEL with restorative circles, make sure you tag me at Gina in Tech and with the hashtag circle up with SEL. Ready to get started? So remember, any session handouts or resources will be on the TCEA mobile app. So make sure you go down and get that downloaded. Move me up. There we go. Much better. Hey, y'all. So if y'all could, if you haven't yet, make sure you download the TCEA mobile app. It is the perfect spot to register for sessions and find all the resources that you need. So, y'all, my whole entire session is based off this amazing book, Classroom Circles by Mr. John J. Whalen. And my girl, Miss Denise Holiday, Circle Mama, hey! So if you don't have this book yet, I have linked it right here for you. I would not suggest going on Amazon because the price is a little crazy. But if you go to this Ed 311, you can find it for about 35 bucks. It is well worth the $35. So I've even got my little tabs, my little marks. You can tell it's super well loved because I use it all the time. So I would suggest grabbing it if you haven't. If you have it and you have it handy, I have some bookmark worthy pages. So you see my little bookmarks, I put all of them right here for you. So components of a circle, part 1. Alternate circle types, some circle scripts, which is the best. Tells you some questions, has scripts in case you're a little anxious and you want something to follow along with, and then circle building tools, which has a ton more information. That is probably one of my favorite parts of the section, parts of the book, right here, circle building tools, because what this is is a ton of questions and prompts that you can use in your circles or in your restorative circles. And I'm going to be using these terms interchangeably. I know that a classroom circle and a restorative circle might not necessarily be exactly the same thing, but I'm going to be talking about them interchangeably in order to reach a wider audience. So if you want a little bit more restorative, you can kind of dig a little bit deeper with those questions. And if you want just like a quick circle, or you want a circle that you can dive a little deep, there are questions for the whole entire gambit from one side of the spectrum to the other in this awesome book. So thank you so much, John J. Whalen, for producing this, and also Miss Denise Holiday for being in the book as well. So, y'all, I am not an expert on social emotional learning. So, I am going to lend it to the experts for a 2-minute video to talk to you about what SEL is. So, please take a listen.
All right, let's talk about it. What exactly is social emotional learning? What's all the hype about SEL and why should you care? Social emotional learning, or SEL for short, teaches you how to identify and understand the ways you might think and feel. SEL is a way for students to develop skills that lead to better mental health, better grades, and better success in life. SEL teaches you how to increase positive energy and subtract negative energy. SEL helps you develop the skills you need to live your best life. SEL includes 5 core skills: self awareness, social awareness, self management, responsible decision making, and relationship skills. Self awareness is the ability to identify and understand your own emotions. Social awareness is understanding the emotions of others. It also involves empathy, which is the ability to take the perspective of others. Self management is the ability to manage your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It includes being able to manage stress and your time effectively. Responsible decision making is simply the ability to make good choices. This includes avoiding peer pressure and thinking of consequences before you make a decision. And finally, relationship skills, which is the ability to keep and maintain healthy relationships. This includes choosing the right friends, being a good friend, and even resolving conflict that might come up. Here are some benefits of SEL. It leads to better academic achievement and a better understanding of who you are. You learn how to handle relationships and friendships. And let's be honest, you'll probably make more money and get a better job if you have good SEL skills. So, what does social emotional learning mean to you? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and visit our website to learn more about SEL.
Okay, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in for that 2-minute quick video. And this is courtesy of SEL. And if you take a look on my agenda, I have them underneath my what is SEL. So it's lessons for SEL is the YouTube channel, and they have all sorts of video lessons for social emotional learning. And y'all, the beat on that, you saw me in this corner. I'm like, gonna keep that on in the background when I'm doing the dishes. Fire. So thank you so much, SEL Lessons on YouTube, for allowing us to play this video. And check them out, y'all. 21,000 subscribers. So head to Lessons for SEL on YouTube and subscribe. See, I've already subscribed. It's killer. So you've learned a little bit about what SEL is. I'm sure you already knew about it, but I mean, I was even a little bit more intrigued that there were 5 components to it. So, Castle and Lessons for SEL all talk about the 5 components for social emotional learning. So, make sure when you are having a restorative circle or a circle of one type, you're not just hitting on only one of those 5 aspects. You want to kind of share the love on your questions and hit as many of those components as you can, or schedule circles often enough that you can kind of share the love. So, y'all, one thing that I love in this world is a good GIF. GIF, GIF, I say GIF. but it messes with my head. So if you are the type of person that can't handle the flashing, the strobing, but you like to have a GIF, what I started doing was a motion sensitivity reveal the gift, reveal the GIF technique. So what I do, and I'm going to escape my slideshow so I can show you exactly what I do. No, you know what? I'm going to show you first, and then I'm going to show you how I do it. So what I do is whatever GIF I want to have in my slideshow for my kiddos or for a PD, I always cover it up. And then when I'm ready to reveal the GIF, I reveal it. So everyone will be participating. Thank you very much. You, David. So, and then it goes whoosh, right back away. So what I do is I use a fade in, fade out technique, technically fade out, then fade back in. And all I do is I put this little text box screen over and I have my background set to white and then I type something over it and then I go to animate. So I right click and I go to animate and I just animate it to fade out and then fade back in on click. So I'm going to delete this one since it was going to do another animation when I just did it. So it's awesome because you can have that GIF covered up on this sidebar, which is where it really annoys me when it's flashing when I'm working on something. And then you can reveal it. And the fade out, fade in is nice because it has a great effect. And then you can cover it right back up. So on your kind of thumbnail bar on the side, it's not constantly flashing, which does seem to get to me after a while if I'm working on something for a really long time. So that is just one little tidbit I wanted to share with you that has nothing to do with SEL or restorative circles. One more time. So the reason for this GIF is whenever you see a GIF, pretty much it means we're going to be doing something participation. You're going to be doing some sort of an activity. So it's up to you what you want to do since this is your on-demand session. I'm your personal presenter. You may pause it. You can take 5 minutes. If it ends up taking you 10 minutes, if you want to sit down and eat your lunch and do it. Or if you're like, Gina B, I don't even want to do this right now. I'm going to keep watching you and then I'm going to go back and do it later. This is your session. So you do it however you would like. So on this next slide, we are going to participate in a little activity. So the Committee for Children has shared some research about how important SEL is for students in our classroom. So what I have here is 6 stats for y'all to dive a little bit deeper into. I've got a great Padlet, and I'll show it to you in a second. And you are going to use this portion of the CFC website to dive a little bit deeper to see where did these stats come from? How did we find out that students were 42% less likely to say they were involved in physical aggression once they were participating in this social emotional learning curriculum? So we're going to head to this Padlet, and if you click that link, it will bring you right to this Padlet here, SEL with Restorative Circles, Part 1, because my second activity, the Jamboard, is going to be Part 2. So I used this Padlet and I did the shelf option, y'all. This is one of my favorite features on Padlet, in addition to the connectors when you can connect like kind of posts or thoughts. So I often, if I want a little bit more collaboration in my classroom, rather than just giving 5 questions and just having them work on them, I'll pop them on this Padlet. And then I just add a new column for each of the questions, and then the kiddos can go and answer. The great thing about Padlet, and thank you so much, Padlet, for being awesome, is y'all, there's so many different types of responses. You can upload a picture, you can take a picture, you can record a video, audio, your screen. So if you ask a question about a certain website or a diagram, the kiddos can record their screen on whatever LMS you have, for instance, Canvas Studio, and you can have them walk right through the website or the web page or whatever they have on their computer. You can add links, you can add images, GIFs, other YouTube videos, songs. So it's pretty awesome. It has a very wide display of answer types, which I love because that differentiation and that multimodality is key when you have a group of students, no matter how big they are. So this article right here is the reference article you are going to use to gather a little bit more info about these 6 stats. So I'm going to open up the CFC website, the Committee for Children. Thank you so much again for allowing me to display this at the TCEA Convention and Exposition for 2022. And I brought y'all, I did all the work for you, right to most of the work. I brought you right to the spot about those 6 statistics. So if you scroll down, you will see each of these titles relates to one of the stats. So for instance, studied return 11 for every dollar invested. If y'all hop back here, this ROI, 11 returned for every dollar invested. So feel free to take about 5 minutes. If it takes you longer than 5, no worries at all. Just pause me, take as much time as you need, and then y'all don't forget, screenshot your Padlet when you're done. Screenshot your little response. Share the Padlet link, and be sure to tag us at TCEA and at Gina in Tech. Hashtag TCEA. Hashtag. What was that? God, I can't even remember what my hashtag was. Hashtag. Let's see what it was. Hey, David. Back. And hashtag circle up with SEL. So don't forget to tag me, tag TCEA, hashtag TCEA, and hashtag circle up with SEL. Let me get this 5-minute timer up for y'all. And feel free to pause me. I've got a little music in the background. I'm going to be here if you need me, though. Just kidding, because this is on demand. So I'm going to close my little tab, but I'm available via email. So if you need me, email me at Gina, Gina, .brown, BROWN, at gcisd.net. And if I'm at my computer, I will definitely get right back to you. So let's use this awesome 5-minute sunset neon retro timer and music from YouTube. Thank you so much. And right behind this little sun says, if you don't want to do this now, just fast forward about 5 minutes. So I'm going to get this started. And you have about 5 minutes to get this done, and I'll see you guys in 5. About 1 minute left. So, y'all, I hope that you leave my session with a ton of awesome things, but if you leave with this amazing YouTube timer, I won't be mad about it because this music is amazing. It's like the perfect chill, but not put you to sleep. I love it. And let's hear. Like it. So it's awesome because it doesn't have that big beeping sound at the end as well. So that 5 minutes was up. If that was a little bit too quick, I initially planned for 10 minutes, but I also didn't want you sitting there if you didn't want to do this now and having to fast forward 10 minutes. So if you need a little more time, pause me. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay. So, like I said before, don't forget to share your work. And I wish I just waited because then I wouldn't have forgot my hashtag because it's right there. So show your work, screenshot your Padlet, screenshot your response, share the Padlet link, and then tweet us and tag us at Gina in Tech. And don't forget to tag at Padlet. And then hashtag TCEA, hashtag Circle Up with SEL. And the next one, you're going to hashtag Google Jamboard because that's what we're going to do for our activity the next time. So I know that a lot of y'all, we did a lot of reading just now because you had to kind of dive into that Committee for Children website. So I want to honor your mental health and a little bit of brain break, especially since you really dove in and gave me some really great responses when I check back in on this. So we are going to take 5 minutes to listen to an awesome podcast. And I'm going to pick my favorite 5 minutes of the podcast to listen to. And I'm hoping that I'll hook y'all and then you'll want to go and finish listening to the other half of it. So this podcast is Easy EdTech Podcast with Dr. Monica Burns. And she has a special guest on her show. And if y'all could hit this link for the episode, and she's got a ton of different episodes. So if you like what you hear and you want to do a little bit more research, this link right here will bring you to tons like Google slide tips. As a digital learning coach, I was very geeked out to find this and I needed to share it with y'all. So we are going to listen to 5 minutes and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to hide my face. And if you just want to kind of close your eyes, sit back and listen to 5 minutes of this podcast. So let me hop over to here to see exactly what time I wanted to start at. So 5 minutes and 26 seconds. So 2:40 in. Okay, y'all ready? Here we go. I'm going to start a couple seconds early.
Welcome to the Easy EdTech Podcast with your host. Your role in education. What does your day-to-day look like?
Thanks, Monica. It is an absolute pleasure to having an opportunity to be on your podcast. And I love learning from you and just the way that you've opened up EdTech and really made it accessible. To talk about social emotional learning, that's my huge passion. And right now I work as an educational consultant that supports ed organizations in creating sustainable systems for social emotional learning. But previously, I was a high school social studies teacher for 10 years. I was an ed tech coach for 3 years, and then a curriculum coach for 2 years after that. So I've developed a great love of technology and seeing how SEL and technology intercept and how we can use them both to support our students.
That is wonderful. And one of the reasons I was so excited to chat with you as well is not only just your background in SEL, but the EdTech connection, which I think listeners will really appreciate. And before we jump into some of the technology connections, though, SEL is a term that we hear used all the time. Just like many terms, some people latch onto it and use it in ways that are not necessarily how it was meant to be used, right? Or buzzwords kind of pop up and we don't listen as closely because we hear an acronym or something like that. So we hear this term SEL in many different contexts. And I'm wondering, if you can just break it down, like what does it really mean when we talk about SEL and social emotional learning?
I'm so glad that you asked that, Monica, because I think that there are a lot of misconceptions around what it is and then what it looks like. And then even when people are like, oh, okay, I understand what it is, but I don't know how to do it. And so SEL stands for social emotional learning. And so the learning part reminds me all the time that it is a skill that we're developing. And so when people think about SEL, sometimes they think of it as something that's stagnant. And it's a process that we all go through. And so social emotional learning is also something that is for every student and every adult. So when I first started learning about social emotional learning, it was mostly some of the misconceptions were, oh, it's for students who need that extra support on building relationships. Well, relationships is one part of social emotional learning. And really, over the last couple of years, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, also referred to as CASEL, has really helped bring everybody together to a more unified definition. And before I explain that definition, I also just want to put out there that SEL is not anything new. It's been around for thousands of years in education, but it's been called different things. So most recently, it was called values clarification or affective education or character education. And so it's not something new. It's something that we as educators have always known is important for ourselves and for students. So CASEL defines SEL in terms of 5 competencies. The first 2 are intrapersonal, so it's around self-awareness and self-management. The second 2 are interpersonal, so that's your social awareness and your relationship skills. That's the one that people generally think about when they think about SEL. And then the last one is responsible decision making. And so under each of those 5, there are specific indicators or descriptors that go into more detail. And in October of this past year, CASEL redefined those 5 competencies and included specific and explicit pieces around diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, and what you just said, Krista, about the process and the learning, emphasis, I think is really important when we're talking about SEL or someone saying, "Here's an SEL curriculum," or we're having this kind of conversation of, "This is a time where we need this." Like, what does that really mean in action? So I like that emphasis on the learning as a process, and that these are pieces that we're all building and skills that we're all thinking about growing in. And you mentioned CASEL as a good framework or a great place for people to go to for more information. I always love, emphasizing that, and that's CASEL. So I'll make sure to put a link to that in the show notes for anyone who's listening, of course, because sometimes having a framework, just like I might talk about the ISTE standards for technology, is a really good way to just bring everyone together with a common set of vocabulary, which it sounds like what you're saying as well is just that there's a lot of different ways we might think about this, but we kind of need to have that common language. And so when technology comes into play, what does that mean? Where might technology come into play? What did SEL look like before?
And that is the perfect, little hook. Like when an episode on TV ends and you're like, you have to wait a whole week. I mean, we really don't have to do that now because of DVR and all that jazz and binge watching. But I was hoping to do that to y'all. So, Dr. Monica Burns said, if y'all scroll down, here, she has some episode resources, like I mentioned before, about CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. So if it says, audio tool chat here, then those are all resources. But if you scroll down, if it says podcast episode, then that is another additional episode that you can enjoy and listen to. So I hope that little brain break was nice. And if you are going to check it out and listen to it later, once again, be sure to tweet it out and tweet out Dr. Monica Burns as well and her podcast, Easy EdTech. So let me hop this back on and we will continue where we left off. Okay, y'all. So we talked all about what social emotional learning was, and just a little refresher. Like I said, I most certainly am not an expert. I lean on the other amazing experts to share this information with y'all. So now we are going to talk about restorative circles or classroom circles. Okay, so restorative circles, or often called community classrooms, classroom circles, community circles, dialogue circles, opening circles, closing circles. I could go on all day long. Doesn't matter what it's called. Basically, what it is you circle up the kids and you are discussing something meaningful. You can connect it to your content, which is what I like to do best, or you can have just a social emotional learning classroom circle, dialogue circle, community circle. So we are going to listen to Restorative Practices Community Building Circle. And this video is courtesy of Glendale Unified. So please feel free to subscribe to them. And once again, thank you so much for allowing us to use your video at the TCEA Convention and Exposition for 2022. So once again, this is just another 2-minute video just to give you a brief overview about community building circles. So I tried to find a video that was not geared toward restorative circles per se. However, if I X out of this and head to my show notes or my agenda, if y'all scroll all the way to the bottom, I have a ton more resources. When I was preparing this presentation, I found a lot of videos that I loved, but I didn't want to oversaturate y'all. So I put whatever videos I decided to not include in the presentation in these show notes. So you will notice there are still a lot of other videos. For example, there's a great Edutopia video that talks all about restorative circles and classroom circles. So if this one doesn't fit your fancy, feel free to pause and watch one of the other videos instead. I always love to differentiate instruction. So if this video doesn't suit you, please feel free to find another one on my agenda. Okay, so 2 minutes, we're going to listen to this little short video. And I'm going to cover me up so I'm not disruptive.
In a community building circle, we bring students and staff together in a circle and provide prompts to encourage them to learn more about each other. The idea is to make deeper connections with one another so that in the future, if a conflict does arise, we use the connections that we've made to solve the problem.
It gives students an opportunity to have a voice, and it gives insight to the teacher and to other students about the human behind the student.
Community building circles are basically when your peers and your classmates all group up in a circle and talk about certain things like what school you're going to, certain details like what your favorite color is, how you felt in general about the year.
Doing community building circles, you're really working on teaching them kindness, empathy, even like some leadership skills. So through the work of keeping this community building circle, you're teaching them life skills and actually working on their social emotional learning as well.
You're not involved in like the circles, but like you're kind of like a stranger, like no one really knows that much about you. You're just there. But like when they know about you, it makes it easier to work with you because now you're not a stranger. You're more like a friend.
I got to learn that I shouldn't be as shy as I usually am, and I can be more outgoing. I'm more outgoing than I used to be.
It really is something very new and different, and even the most hesitant teachers and staff members who started in this process have seen the fruits of it.
I would say because of community building circles, more of our teachers feel a deeper connection with their classrooms than just being the deliverer of academic instruction. They have a personal connection with their students.
Because of community building circles, students have really learned to accept one another, and it has allowed teachers to understand students in ways that they probably would have never understood them when just teaching academics.
What an awesome video. And thank you again, Glendale Unified, for filming that and then for sharing it with us on YouTube. So let's chat real quick, y'all. Let me get this back up. So we all know that social emotional learning and circles definitely hits that classroom culture. And If you incorporate games, if you incorporate questions, you're just going to build deeper relationships with your students, which will help with classroom management and the fact of students just feeling safe and welcome in your classroom. So let's move on. Like I said before, y'all, if you are worried about time, so let's say you are the type of teacher that has a standardized tested grade, for example, a math or science, and you don't want to be taking time away from your curriculum to be doing these SEL circles. Well, I have a solution for you. One of my favorite things to do is to incorporate my content into my classroom circles. So if you find a video from TED Talk or a YouTube video, a scholarly article, an excerpt, part of a novel, a piece of artwork, and you build your social emotional learning or your community building circle around that content, you can get at the same exact thing as if you were, like Narek was saying, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? So if you want to dig a little bit deeper, find an article, for example, about designer babies, if you're a science teacher, and have the kids read and mark up that article and have that kind of expert or that master text, and then have them circle up after. And the only thing is you will need to do your prep beforehand. You will need to gather those great questions that relate to that social emotional learning and also connect to that curriculum. How do you feel about designer babies? What kind of world would that look like if people can choose what their babies look like? Do you think that's right? And then you're getting into all of that social emotional learning. You're getting into those 5 aspects. You're getting into that self awareness. You're getting into that responsible decision making, relationship skills, because you're in a circle. You are, sorry about that. You are talking with your partners. You're working on your team building skills, having a bounce card, sentence stems in your social emotional learning circle. Now you are bringing in all of these different aspects of things that you typically would be doing in your normal content, except you are also, in addition to, coming like from the side with the social emotional learning. And the great thing, y'all, is the kids won't even know it. They won't even know what hit them. They will think either A, they're just talking about content, or B, they're just in a social emotional learning circle, and they'll never realize you're doing both at the same time. So the one thing that I do like to discuss is that it is a little bit of prep work for you in advance. However, the return on investment is stellar. It is ridiculous because the deep conversations and the engagement that you're going to have, and then that kind of tie into that social emotional learning, trust me, the bang for your buck will be out of this world. So thanks again for that awesome video, and let's move on. You know what this means. So it's time for another activity. You excited to see what this GIF is? So this time you are going to be thinking. I want y'all to think. So the first activity was based off of SEL. This activity is based off of restorative or classroom circles. So I want y'all to be thinking about some questions that you could be asking your kiddos. Now, this is your on-demand session, which is great. I'm your personal TCEA presenter. So I want you to cater this to exactly what you want. So for instance, if you already have something in mind, you have a kind of a topic or a unit that you're thinking about incorporating a community or an SEL circle into, keep that in mind when you're doing this next portion of the activity, because this is not a busy work session. I want y'all to be using the things that you're learning in this session in order to directly affect your classroom so that you can go there next week, the week after, and be incorporating these things in. So my thought is you're going to head to this Jamboard, and I'll show you it in a second. And you're going to use this great handout that I found, 180 circle questions for building community. You can also, if you have your own copy of Classroom Circles by John J. Whalen, you can also turn to the tools section, which is part 3. And I have this on my bookmark worthy slides on slide 4. So you can turn to page 121 and you've got a ton of different types of questions you can use there as well. So let me head to this Jamboard and show y'all exactly what you're going to be doing. Move me over. So Jamboard is another great tool. I love to use Jamboard in order to have my kiddos collaborate. Jamboard and Padlet are very low upfront prep. So I love that because, like I said, if I need a little more collaboration and I'm like, oh, my class just needs a little bit more energy, I'm going to just cut and paste this question that I had in Canvas or whatever my LMS is, and I'm going to put it here so that way the kids can collaborate a little bit more. So I have 3 different segments depending on how popular this session is. I have no idea. I'm hoping it's very popular and I fill all of these jam boards up. So I have 3 different kind of sections. In case you notice that there is a section that is too crowded, then go to the next block of 5. And I'm saying 5 because what y'all are going to do is you are going to find a circle question about each of these 5 SEL components. So self-management, you're going to find a question about managing emotions, managing behaviors, help achieving goals. You're going to find a second question about self awareness, recognizing one's emotions and values, as well as one's strengths and challenges. You are going to find a third question about responsible decision making. So, making ethical, constructive choices about personal and social behavior. And y'all, this is like the high ticket question item if you are trying to do a philosophical chairs or Socratic seminar or a classroom circle relating to content. That section right there, you can have a lot of questions. The fourth one is relationship skills. So, forming positive relationships, working in teams, dealing with conflicts. And this, like I mentioned before, having sentence stems or bounce cards, kind of one piece of laminator in a sheet protector that has those kind of starters. I agree with you because I disagree because. Sally, can you please explain what you meant by? That will also help hit that relationship skills component. And then last but not least, I want you to think of a question about social awareness. So showing understanding and empathy for others. So keep in your head a unit that you want to do. And if you don't really have anything and you just kind of want to be exploring, just think in general about these 5 components and what are some questions that you think will relate best to these components. So let me head to the next Jamboard to show you what I want you to do. So what I did was I went to remove.bg, one of my other favorite sites, and I removed the other 4 components of kind of the circle wedge. So on this page 2, you are going to find one question that relates to social awareness. And like I said, you can click this 180 circle questions, and you can feel free to pause me, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, do this later. And if you go down, you will see that there is 180 questions all about community building circles. So for instance, if our first one was social awareness, showing understanding and empathy for others, you will go through and you will find a question that you think best fits that component of social emotional learning. And then you will do the same exact thing with the other 2, 3, 4, and 5 components. If you're joining this on-demand session a little bit later and you notice that the first chunk is pretty kind of messy, a lot of people have added, no worries. If you need more room, I added 5 more Jamboard pages from 8 to 12, and I made the backgrounds different so you could differentiate. And then I did a third set just in case. So in case the first 2 segments are filled, you'll notice that the third set is all the graph paper. So take about 5 minutes. I am going to cover myself up once again so I'm not disruptive. And I have another joyful 5-minute timer, bright and happy music from YouTube. So get cuddled up, get comfy, get those questions out, and start thinking about those 5 components of SEL. About 1 minute left. Ugh. Oh, so I love this timer because I love the music, but the end, I don't know about that. So one thing I was thinking about in that 5 minutes is I would love to show y'all how to embed a timer into your slides. So if you know how to do this, awesome. Thank you so much. If you do not, growth mindset, I'm going to teach you right now. So what I do is I go to YouTube and I find whatever timer I want. I YouTube 5-minute timer with music, 5-minute timer with scenery, whatever you would like. And then what I do is I copy that URL for YouTube. Then I go right here to insert video. And then you paste the YouTube link right there, click on it, and then hit select. And it will embed it right into your slideshow for you, which is pretty sweet. You can make it smaller, make it bigger. You can have it start automatically, whatever you would like. So another little tech tidbit from me. So how did y'all do? I can't wait to check out this Jamboard after. Once again, please do not forget to share out your Jamboard. Take a screenshot of your Jamboard. Share out the link of your Jamboard. Take a little screenshot of your response and tweet it out and tag me at Gina in Tech, tag at TCEA, and add the hashtags hashtag TCEA and hashtag circle up with SEL. I will never forget that hashtag again. So I want to say this is our last GIF, but it's not. So what I am going to do now is talk all about my girl, Lovey Ajayi Jones. So she is phenomenal. I love both of her books, and she has this awesome TED Talk that did very, very well. And this TED Talk is called Getting Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable. And what I did was I just kind of copied and pasted the little intro on YouTube, and I put it right here for y'all. So that way we're not going to watch this video, but just to give you a little bit of a background to show you what I did with it in my classroom. So this is all about, like I said, talking about having kind of difficult conversations or kind of pushing yourself a little bit further. And then you get that feeling of being uncomfortable and you don't really like it, But you got to kind of grapple with that because that uncomfort is what causes that growth. So at the end of her TED Talk, she asked these 3 questions. And she says, if you ever have to have an uncomfortable conversation, or you need to kind of discuss something with somebody and you can't say yes to these 3 questions, then you need to kind of stop, take a step back, and think again about kind of how you want to approach this conversation. So her 3 questions were, did you mean it? Can you defend it? And did you say it with love? So that was kind of the lesson that I wanted my kiddos to get out of her TED Talk. And if you click this image, it will bring you to her Twitter account. So I'm going to do that for a second since I am using her amazing video. I want to show her some love and maybe have y'all follow her and show her a little bit of love as well. So once I get my Twitter account back up, I will more than certainly show you that. So if I need to pause and come back, I will do that. So give me 1 second. Okay, y'all. So I was having some trouble with my Twitter and I was nervous that if I turned on and off my Wi-Fi, it would mess up my recording, which would be the worst. So I went in and I screenshotted from a different computer her 2 Twitter pages. So you can follow her at Pro Troublemaker because her latest book is Professional Troublemaker. And she actually just released a young adult edition called Rising Troublemaker. And then you can follow her other Twitter account at Lovey, which they look similar, but one is a more professional for her books, and then the other one is a more personal. So please follow her on Twitter, so that way we can show her a little love because I appreciate all that she's done for my lessons and my kiddos. We even made orikis, which is a Nigerian kind of like family poem or family like coat of arms. And we tweeted them out and tagged her, and she retweeted them and wanted to see my students' oriki. So they felt kind of almost famous. So I thank you for that as well. So let me show you exactly what I did with her TED Talk. So this is my attempt to show y'all how you can find something that fits into your curriculum and kind of tweak it a little bit to have it be more catered to your topic, your tech, teak, however you want to say it. So this we did right before a spring break, and I did it with both my 7th and 8th grade science classes and my AVID classes. And my thought was it was kind of a recharge before the break, so that way when they came back, they could finish the year strong and kind of have some of those hard conversations they needed to with some teachers or maybe some peers. So here is what I did. I had my students sit at their desks independently. So, one aspect of social emotional learning that I love and circles is I like to do kind of an independent section or independent segment and then the group segment. So, what the students need to do in their independent segment is whatever your master text is, a video, which isn't really a text, but y'all know what I mean. A video, an excerpt, a novel, a website, an article. What you have them do is you have them create some sort of notes or you have them watch it or listen to it on their own first so they can process. They can create questions from it. They can rewatch or re-listen or reread if they need to. So what I used was TED Talk has this awesome note catcher that they created for their TED Talks. And I have it linked right here. If you want to click it, you can download it and have it for your own use in your classrooms. And then I also linked Lovey's Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable TED Talk as well. So that way, maybe you can try it in your class, and this can be kind of your first get your feet wet test for your circles. So the video, I believe it says right here, is about 10 minutes long. So it's not, it doesn't have to be a half hour, it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be a little 2-minute segment, whatever you feel comfortable with using. And if you have a piece of media that you already are using in your classroom, use that and see if you can adapt it and make a circle out of it. So we watched the video. They filled out their TED Talk note catcher. And then after that, we circled up. So then they had their note catchers with them. They had already processed the video. They had written some questions that they had, maybe questions that they wanted to ask the circle as well. And then I had my trusty, not so dusty, because I use it all the time, Classroom Circles book. And y'all can see it. It's literally right on my chair. Like I sit with it on my lap. I have my questions highlighted. I use different colors for each time. So I know my red circled ones are for this time. And I have my questions prepared ahead of time. So that way I'm not just asking random questions and hoping they hit. I took a minute to look at those 5 components of social emotional learning and then my TED Talk, my master video, and I tried to find questions that could hit both on the video and on that social emotional learning aspect. And the kids loved it. They loved her personality. So you got to find a good, engaging video, a good, engaging piece of text, something that maybe has multiple opinions. And like I said, you got to put in that work ahead of time to make sure that it is meaningful and that it is relating to the content or the component of SEL that you want it to relate to. So what I did was I went through and I pulled my questions ahead of time. If you notice, some of the questions say book, and that just means that I got it directly from the Classroom Circles book. And then the other ones are questions that I created that I knew connected to the getting comfortable with being uncomfortable video, and that could also hit on that SEL. So take a minute to check out these questions. We're all adults, and I'm not going to read them to you. But you notice that I've got some questions asking about pushing limits, about a time that you were uncomfortable. And then you also need to be prepared for whatever may come from the circle. So you need to remember you are a mandated reporter, number 1. So if anything, once in a while it does, things surface, and you have to make sure that you are prepared for that and you are in contact with your counselors, with your administration. And I'm saying this because one of the questions, for instance, is there a time when it's not okay to be uncomfortable? Because I don't want to drive this home and let the kids think that it's okay to be uncomfortable, because there's certain moments. Maybe somebody wants you to do something you don't want to do. Somebody wants you to take something at a store. Somebody wants you to lie to your parents. There are certain times when it's not okay to be uncomfortable. Like you're uncomfortable for a reason. So you need to kind of have that talk. And that's when it brings in that social emotional learning aspect. That's when you get into those 5 components about the self-awareness and the relationship building. And all of those things as well. So, like I said, take a minute to check out these questions and feel free to use these if you want to try out the TED Talk that I just showed y'all. I see what you did there, my girl. So, here are some other ideas to incorporate social emotional learning into your class that might not be a classroom circle. Philosophical chairs, y'all, and Socratic seminars are perfect for weaving in these 5 components of social emotional learning. And not only that, the way that I've been framing my kind of restorative circles or my classroom circles is more gearing towards a philosophical chair or a Socratic seminar, because I am incorporating that master text or that master video that relates to my content. So if you want a little bit more beef, a little bit more evidence, a little bit more backing up, maybe more annotating, text coding, kind of interacting with that text, you could do a philosophical chair or a Socratic seminar and easily incorporate questions from a classroom circle book into one of those activities. And if y'all click on each of these links, I made sure to make each of these links purposeful. So if you haven't noticed, anything that is red is a link. And this slideshow is filled with live links. So please bookmark it, save it, make a copy of it. I might have to go in and edit some things here and there. So if you just want to bookmark it for now, in case I change anything or add some awesome things, if I get feedback from people, maybe just bookmark it for now. So that way you can get my updates as I update them. But for instance, philosophical chairs, Edutopia. Thank you so much again for letting us use this article in my session today. So if y'all click through each of these links, I made sure to find social emotional learning aspects for each of these things that I'm talking about. So I've got some SEL check-in questions from Pathway to Success. I've got some student-led conference information from Edutopia, which is a great way to incorporate SEL. And you can have sort of a little circle with your student, yourself, your teacher's aide, and then whatever folks are coming for your student for the conference. So you can even frame a student-led conference or a parent-teacher conference into an SEL circle. And then tons of discussion questions. You can frame a social emotional learning circle around one like overarching discussion question. And thanks again to Castle for providing a great list of those discussion questions. So you might be thinking to yourself, like, how can I get this done? So my kids are virtual, or I'm on a concurrent learning setting, or I've got some kids that are remote, have kids in and out, home for a week, back in. You can use any of these awesome resources in order to make sure that your students at home are getting that same experience as your students in the classroom. Or if all your students are at home, everybody's getting that experience. So Flipgrid has some great social emotional learning lessons built into it, which is what I linked here for you. But not only that, you can just use the platform of Flipgrid to have students record their videos. So you have them watch a TED Talk, and then you ask them questions, have them record their responses, and then have them interact with their peers by replying to their videos, liking them, commenting on them. So that is one great way to bring in that kind of virtual or digital platform. Similarly so, Nearpod also has some great SEL lessons as well. And this would be another great way for you to kind of prep kids for a circle, or give them that independent work first and then have them come into the circle with their notes, with their knowledge, so that way they can be positive, effective contributors to the circle. My Northeast was coming out, contributors. Y'all, you can take the Northeast out of the girl, but no, you can take the girl out of the Northeast, but you can't take the Northeast out of the girl. So Padlet, Jamboard, Mentimeter are also some other great platforms for y'all to be using for your social emotional learning. And same thing, if you click on each of these, I have some goodies for you to share. Awesome classroom games. Circles are not just about questions and talking. You also have to incorporate that team building in order for your students to feel comfortable with each other in order to share. Classroom culture, I mean, that is one way to get social emotional learning done. If you've got great classroom culture, your kids are constantly inundated with social emotional learning. And then same thing with your routines and procedures. If you've got great routines and procedures, then that means that you are definitely addressing some of these 5 components, that self-awareness, self-management, all of those types of components you are addressing within your routines and procedures. And then discussion posts on your LMS, discussion posts on Canvas, on Padlet, on Google Classroom, Seesaw, whatever platform you are using, pulling some of those discussion questions that I tagged from Castle or Universe dot Parlay Ideas. I also have some really great discussion questions, and I'm happy I clicked on that, y'all. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm happy if you bookmark. There we go. Bookmark instead of making a copy, because for instance, had this link not worked, I would have needed to go in and kind of fix that. So here, y'all, this website, stellar. I mean, just look at all these awesome. Is empathy really so great? Are we born resilient? So they have online versions and live versions, and they're just discussion prompts. And then if you go through, they've got videos for you here with discussion questions. And notice how I clicked an online version and they have online videos. They've got the resources for you, versus if I click the live version, there's polls and there's a roundtable. I might not use this platform that way. I would just pull and grab questions. So self-motivation, I'm going to go down, I'm going to grab these guiding questions, I'm going to go down, I'm going to grab these poll questions, and I'm going to pull them into whatever LMS I have. And I have created 4 SEL lessons in Flipgrid. So if you click on this link right here, it will bring you to the activities that I have created and used with my kids. I have these in my back pocket and I pull them out if I've got an extra 5 minutes. If the class maybe needs a minute to kind of, get some jitters out or chat a little bit. And then I pop up one of these Flipgrids and have them do it. And then we can kind of move on and get back to what we were doing. So I have these 4, and y'all, there are plenty of SEL lessons that you can pull and you can grab. These were just 4 that I quickly created in order to share with y'all and with my kiddos. So are you an introvert or an extrovert? If I click on this, there is articles, there's a quiz. So there's tons of resources for the kids to take a quiz to decide whether they're introverts or extroverts. And then there's Wonderopolis articles. So the great thing about Flipgrid is all of their topics have some sort of an article or a piece of text that the students can check out with it. So I love this because we all know reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Those are huge things in the classroom that we always need to make sure we are hitting on. What is social emotional learning? So this might be the one at the top of your grid that you want to start with. And then I created a grid all about what I just talked about, the getting comfortable with being uncomfortable TED Talk, and then giving DAP. So a lot of my kids, we had handshakes, and I had handshakes with each of my kids. And I asked them, do y'all know about the history about a DAP, dignity and pride? Do you know what it means? And a lot of them didn't. So we took a little bit out of our class lesson to watch this video, read this Wonderopolis article, and then the kids add responses. They talked about who they have DAPs with, whether or not they differ. So I thought that was really great. And these are all connected to social emotional learning. So if you have questions or you want to stay connected, I would love to stay connected with you. So follow me on Twitter at Gina in Tech. We used to be called instructional technologists or instructional technology coaches. So that is what my Twitter handle was. And then I would love for y'all to comment on, like, retweet. I'm going to put a tweet when TCEA starts. And if you want to comment on this tweet, retweet it. Like it. Just show me some love, y'all. And I also want to hear what you loved. So share out some things that you took away from this lesson or this session, some things that you plan on using, some things that you loved. And like I said, feel free to check out the 4 Flipgrid SEL lessons I created and email me anytime at gina.brown@gcisd.net. So here are the resources that I promised you at the beginning. This is the agenda that I went through that you kept kind of seeing me look at on my little Chromebook right here. So you have this agenda that has additional resources at the bottom, and then it has everything that I kind of went through. If you are more of a person that likes things linear, nice and neat on a doc rather than a slideshow, I have that there for you. Then I also have this awesome infographic that I created. So let me get out of that. Let me move my face. So I have this infographic that I created. If you want to steal it, please feel free. It is yours. And then similarly, so I put some red links on there for you. So social emotional learning, a quick 1, 2, 3, 4 to implement it in your class next week. So get familiar. Have the kids start with my comfortable with being uncomfortable lesson, or just a kind of low stakes. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What are you doing this weekend? And have them kind of get familiar with sitting in a circle, listening, not talking when others are talking, having that kind of talking piece or that talking stick. The more comfortable they are with being in a circle and being vulnerable, the more you will get out of your circle. So don't dive right into a SEL circle about designer babies, like, or is 18 the right age to vote. That is not where you want to start. The second thing, timing is everything. You do not want to push or force a circle into a lesson or into a class. If your class is not ready for it, I would suggest starting with something small. And if you've got a lesson that doesn't lend itself to a circle or a philosophical chairs or a Socratic seminar, find something else. So like I said, authenticity is key. The kids know if you are not being authentic and if you don't think it fits well. So please make sure that you find a good topic that you think it will work best in. And notice, y'all, each of these, I'm not going to click on them, but each of them have resources to a simple circle, to authentic SEL questions that you can incorporate into your class. Then, once you have the kids kind of practice and you find a good lesson or a good unit for it to fit in, the next thing you want to do is find that master video or that master text or that master excerpt and have the kids interact with it prior to, create notes, create a note catcher, create a one pager, answer some discussion questions prior to, and then have them circle up. I put links for some really great TED Talks for circles, some really great articles for circles, some really great news, kids news story websites that you can pull great news stories from. And then, y'all, I think I'm going to click on this just because I was very stoked to find this. I think it was top 20. Let me see what it says. Yeah, top 20 kid documentaries. So you can even pull excerpts from these different documentaries and create some questions and pull some questions for an SEL circle. So a lot of these, y'all, can relate to your content or to just social emotional learning in general. So I thought that was great. Where was I? Here I am. And then number 4, y'all, it is all about the questions. You have to put in that time to find those great questions. You don't want to be asking what your favorite color is when you're talking about March of the Penguins. You want to make sure you're connecting to those 5 components of SEL and you are finding really good quality questions prior to. Have them typed up, have them on your computer, have them on your LMS ready to go. And I pulled a question bank for y'all so that way you could find some questions quickly. Now, if you need a digital option, I created this slideshow. I'm going to pull it up over here. You close out some of this stuff, y'all. Perfect. So this slideshow I created for y'all, and it's right there for you to make a copy. So this first one is just a background. If you want to put it on Jamboard instead, which I have also done, you can just save this, go to File, download, save as a JPEG, and you can upload it right to the background of whatever other platform you want. This one, the background is nailed down with the directions, but the kids' names are movable. So what I do is I share this slideshow. Typically, I would just have it have 2 slides, like a title and whichever slide I choose to use. And then the kids go in, they type in their name. And then what they do is you have a circle. If some kids are at home, some kids are in person, everybody puts their name and everybody kind of follows this same protocol. So if I want to talk, I drag my name to the center. And then the teacher or the student, depending on the age of the kids, depending on the relationships you have and the relationships the students have with each other, I either pull their name over the talking emoji when I want them to talk, or if they're a really good self-regulated class, my students also, if there's 3 people and they feel like what they want to say fits best right now, they will even pull their own names over the emoji. So however you want to do it, I kind of call it like softball or baseball. You're on deck if you're in the edge. And like I said, move your name to the center of the circle, no more than 3 in the center at a time. So if I'm here and Jose's here and Madison's here, then I know that if my name is Bella or Frank, I shouldn't be pulling my name in there until Gina or Jose or Madison have pulled their names out. So 3 max, and then when whoever wants to talk pulls their name on the emoji, and then when they're done, they pull it back out onto the circle where they were sitting. So that way it gives somebody else an opportunity to talk, and then it gives somebody else an opportunity to come into the circle. So you have that there for you ready to go. And I know some people like to create their own kind of font to change it up. So this third slide, and if y'all notice in the notes, I left notes for which each slide is, so the difference. This one, everything is movable. The emoji, the directions, the circle, the background. So if you want to take pieces of this, you don't like the green background, you want to change it. You don't like this emoji, you want to put your own. You don't like my Arial font and you want to put Calibri or whatever it is, that is fine, and you have this to do that with. Please feel free to make a copy of this. I will not be changing this around, so make a copy and have it and bookmark it for yourself. And then don't forget the talking piece, y'all. In order to have your circle be the most effective, one person can talk at a time. And I'm a little feisty and I say me, the teacher, and one other person. Because sometimes they get real savage and they tell you, you're not supposed to be talking, you don't have the talking piece. And I say, I'm the facilitator. So if you click on this, I've got some really cute ideas for things that you can do for talking pieces and some alternatives to talking pieces. Since coronavirus and we don't want to be passing things around for health and safety reasons, there are a ton of other things that you can do. Each person brings their own talking piece, and then when it's your turn to talk, you would hold up your book, your pencil, whatever it is, color-coded index card. So green, if you want to talk, you would hold it up and the teacher would see your green index card. And then some of them are cool too, like a gesture. If I want to talk, maybe I put my finger on my nose. That's the gesture to talk. And then when it's time and I say, oh, Gina, it's your turn, then I can talk. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and you can adapt this to whatever you would like to have it fit your classroom. So this infographic was made on Canva. So thank you so much, Canva, for allowing us to show your products here. And then I even linked my Google slideshow onto this as well. I added some more links are read for you. So there's a couple surprises there for you if you click on those as well. Okay, y'all, we're almost done. I feel like that time went so fast. I miss you already. We're not even done. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. Okay, perfect. And then, like I said, I linked the Padlet, the Jamboard, and this is the digital, what I just showed you, the seating charts that you can have for your SEL circles. So y'all, don't forget, provide feedback. Remember to evaluate my session. Your feedback is key. This is my very first presentation at TCEA, y'all. So that makes me feel so happy that y'all were here with me when I presented, and I would really appreciate your feedback. Like I said, I've presented at conferences before and PDs, but this is my very first TCEA conference presentation. So tweet, tag me at Gina in Tech, use at TCEA, hashtag TCEA, and hashtag circle up with SEL. And don't forget to answer my 3 poll questions at the end of this presentation, which we're there now, y'all. Don't forget to follow my girl Lovey, Dr. Monica Burns, Castle, Committee for Children, all of these awesome people and organizations that helped make this presentation possible. So scroll on down, and like I said, y'all, all of these resources are here for you. As I was creating this presentation, I gathered more resources than I needed, and I didn't want to discard them because I thought they were all valuable. So feel free to check these out as well. Okay, y'all, let me end with this awesome TCEA convention and exposition kind of background. So y'all, once again, thank you so much. I know your time is valuable, and I really do feel blessed and honored that you took the time to join me for my SEL with Restorative Circles session. This is Gina Brown, and I'm signing out, and thank you so much. And please reach out with any comments, feedback, talk to me, follow me on Twitter. Let's connect. I'm stoked. Bye, y'all.